Bonjour class, today we're learning 3 new verbs, devoir, vouloir, and pouvoir. These shouldn't be totally unfamiliar. We've already used them from time to time in class or for writing assignments when you ask me how to say something. So today we're actually going to go through and learn them piece by piece. So the first verb we have is devoir. Devoir usually means to have to, must, or to owe. It is an irregular verb, so the conjugation is je dois, tu dois, il, elle, on doit, nous devons, vous devez, and ils, elles doivent. And the past participle is also irregular and it is due. I hope that we're noticing that even though verbs that are irregular should not technically follow a pattern, they usually do to some extent, right? Like the conjugation for je and tu somehow end up being extremely similar, if not the same, and they usually end in an S. And the conjugation for il, elle, on is usually about the same as je and tu, but with a T instead of an S at the end. The conjugation for nous almost always ends up happening with O and S at the end, the same way that vous almost always ends with EZ. And il, elle plural is usually similar to je, tu, il, elle, on, but with an E and T at the end, like that boot verb coming back. So that's the conjugation for devoir. There's a lot of different ways to use it. You almost never see devoir by itself, just in the present tense. You usually have to combine it with other verbs or put it into different tenses for it to really mean something. So the first and probably the most common use of devoir is in sentences like this one, that say je dois étudier. This one would mean I have to study. So if you put devoir and then an infinitive like étudier, it means that you have to or you must do something. So that's our first use. Our second use of devoir is in sentences like vous me devez vos devoirs. You owe me your homework. It gets kind of confusing. Devoir, the word for homework does come from the verb, because if you think about it, the verb means to have to, so it's like calling your homework your have tos or something like that. So in this case, you form sentences like this with devoir and then a direct object, which in this case would be vos devoirs, the thing that you directly owe. So when you have that combination, it means that you owe something. Another example we have is elle a dû trop manger, which we'll remember from the last slide. Dû is the past participle, so we have avoir in the past participle, so we see it's in the passé composé. And when you do that, it means she must have eaten too much. So if you put devoir in the passé composé, it means that you're speculating or guessing about what must have happened. So you don't know for sure, but this would be an example. Like, for example, maybe you see somebody in the class period after lunch and they're really tired and they're sleepy, and you say, oh, she must have eaten too much. You would form it like this in French. Elle a dû trop manger. Then last use of devoir is in sentences like this one. Tu devais ranger ta salle. This one means you were supposed to clean your room, because ranger means to clean. Ta salle means your room, and tu devais means you were. So when you put devoir in l'imparfait, like it is here, it means that you were supposed to do something. So these are the 4 most common uses of the verb devoir. So we're going to move on to our second verb, which is vouloir. Vouloir means to want. It is also irregular, so we get to memorize some more conjugation. For vouloir, it's je veux, tu veux. Again, we see the je and the tu conjugations are the same. Il, elle, on veut, nous voulons, vous voulez, and ils, elles veulent. Past participle is voulu. It is also an irregular past participle. But all 3 verbs that we're learning about today are not Van der Champ, so they'll all use avoir with these past participles. Vouloir, you usually just use it in the present, like if you say, je veux de la glace, I want some ice cream. Je veux lire, I want to read. But there's some slightly different ones as well. For example, nous ne voulons pas dire ça. That means we don't mean that. So you don't see the word want anywhere in that translation, because it takes on something a little bit different when you put vouloir with dire to say what something means. You've probably heard me ask this a lot in class, where I say qu'est-ce que ça veut dire? That veut is vouloir, and when I say qu'est-ce que ça veut dire, I'm saying what does that mean? It's almost like saying what does that want to say? So that's a literal translation that we in English just say mean for. Another way to use vouloir, elle n'a pas voulu parler. This one translates to she refused to talk, so all of a sudden we have a really strong word for refused. If you put vouloir in the passé composé, like it is here with the past participle and avoir, then you have an infinitive and it's all negative. That means that you refuse to do something. So it's not just saying that you didn't want to, it's like much stronger in French. So that is vouloir. Our last verb, pouvoir, means to be able to or can. Also irregular, surprise. The conjugation is very similar to vouloir in a lot of ways. Je peux, tu peux, il, elle, on peut, nous pouvons, vous pouvez, and ils, elles peuvent. Past participle is pu. Some uses of pouvoir. When we see this one here, nous avons pu finir les devoirs. That becomes we managed to finish the homework. Not just we were able to, but it's a slightly different meaning, like you just barely scraped by. So to form this, you put pouvoir in the passé composé, and then you have an infinitive. So that's what we see here. We have avons pu, pouvoir in the passé composé, and then our infinitive in this example sentence would be finir. And that means that you just managed to do something. And that's the end. Ça c'est tout. Merci. Let me know what questions you have tomorrow about these verbs, and otherwise just try to start getting some practice memorizing the conjugation.